Hello children, welcome back to P.N.AMERSEY e-learning classes. Children, we are coming to the last chapter of English, chapter number 10. The name of the chapter is The Banyan Tree. So children, open your book, page number 125. Now this is the video of part 1. Okay children, let's start with the chapter. Now you all have seen the banyan tree, yes? Okay, now you must have seen a banyan tree. This is a story about what the author saw as a young boy when he was sitting in an old banyan tree in his grandfather's house. Now children, this is the story about the old banyan tree and which has been written by Ruskin Bond. In the last page you will see the name of the author. Now this is the story that author Ruskin Bond has written when he was a young boy. He was a small boy and he used to sit under the old banyan tree in his grandfather's house. So children, let's start with the chapter. Though the house and grounds belong to my grandparents. So children, here the Ruskin Bond, young boy, he's saying that house and ground both belong to my grandfather, my grandparents. The magnificent old banyan tree was mine. See, here the author is saying that house and ground both belongs to my grandparents, but on that ground, old banyan tree was mine. Chiefly because, now he is giving the answer why. Because grandfather at 65 could no longer climb it. Now here the author is saying that when I was a young boy, I used to sit under the old banyan tree and that banyan tree belongs to mine. Why? Because grandfather, he could not climb the tree because he was already 65-year-old and I am the young boy. I can climb the tree. So now this tree belongs to mine. Its spreading branches which hung to the ground and took root again, forming a number of twisting passages, gave me endless pleasure. Now here the young boy Ruskin Bond is saying that when I am seeing the old banyan tree, I see that the branches of that old banyan tree, it's hangs to the ground. That means it touching the ground. The roots of that banyan tree, it's touching the ground and the branches are spread all over. And when he looks at that banyan tree, it gives him a endless pleasure. Among them were squirrels and snails and butterflies. Now on that banyan tree, squirrels were there, butterflies were there and snails were also there. The tree was older than the house. See here the author is saying the tree was more older than the house, older than the grandfather. So what is the age of the grandfather? It was 65. So the banyan tree was more older than the grandfather's age. As old as Dehradun itself. Now here we can know that the author and his grandparents, they always staying in Dehradun. The house and old banyan tree was in Dehradun. So here the author is saying, Ruskin Bond is saying that the old banyan tree was older than the house and also older than the grandfather. I could hide myself in its branches. Its branches were so huge that author is saying that I can hide myself in its branches. Behind thick green leaves and spray on the world below. So the branches, it was having a thick green leaves and spray on the world below. So what is the meaning of spray? Watch secretly. The author is saying that I can hide myself in the branches and behind the thick green leaves, and from there I can watch the world secretly. My first friend was a small grey squirrel. Now the author is saying, Ruskin Bond is saying that my first friend was a very small grey color squirrel. Arching his back and sniffing into the air, he seemed at first to resent my invasion of his privacy. Now the author Ruskin is saying, my small grey color friend squirrel, what he used to do? He used to arching his back, rubbing his back and sniffing into the air, smelling into the air, and also he is adding that first he was afraid of me. He doesn't want to be my friend and he wants the privacy. But when he found that I do not arm myself with catapult or air gun, he became friendly. Children, here first the squirrel was disliking the author. He was afraid to become a friend. But when squirrel found that the author did not have catapult. What is the meaning of catapult? In Hindi we say gilol or air gun. He became friendly. Now when the squirrel saw that author will not harm him and he doesn't have any catapult or air gun, so now the squirrel became friend with author Ruskin Bond. And when I started bringing him pieces of cake and biscuit, he grew quite bold. Now the author Ruskin Bond, he used to bring the pieces of cakes and biscuit for squirrel, and now they both became a good friend and was soon taking morsels from hand. So here the author is saying that now we are good friends, and always the author brings pieces of cake and biscuit and they grew quite bold. And what squirrel do? Squirrel used to eat the morsels. What is the meaning of morsels? Pieces of cake and biscuit from author's hand. Before long he was delving into my pockets and helping myself to whatever he could find. Now children, here the author is saying that not only the squirrel became the friend and he used to eat the cake and biscuit from author's hand, but also what squirrel do? Squirrel delving into the pocket of author. The squirrel used to go deep into the pocket and there also he used to search for food. He was a very young squirrel and his friends and relatives probably thought him foolish and headstrong for trusting a human. Now he is saying that, author is saying that though squirrel was very young and squirrel friends and relatives, they thought that this squirrel is foolish because he is trusting a human. In the spring, when the banyan tree was full of small red figs, birds of all kinds would flock into its branches. The red-bottomed bulbul, cheerful and greedy parrots, manna and crows scrambling with one and another. So children, the author is saying during the spring season, when the banyan tree is full of small red figs, all different kinds of birds, red-bottomed bulbul, cheerful and greedy parrot, manna and crow, they all come and they sit on the branches of banyan tree and they eat small red figs. During the fig season, the banyan tree was the noisiest place in the garden. So here the author is saying that during the season, spring season, and when banyan tree is full of small red figs, the banyan tree, it becomes the noisiest place in the garden. Noise of birds comes from the banyan tree in the garden. Halfway up the tree, I had built a crude platform where I would spend the afternoons when it was not too hot. So children, here the Ruskin Bond is saying that he has built half up the tree a crude platform. From there he can spend the afternoons when it was not too hot. And I could read there, propping myself up against the tree with a cushion from the living room. So there he used to do all the activities. He used to read, he used to watch the tree birds during the afternoon when he used to come and sit under the tree. Huckleberry Finn and the story of Dr. Dolittle were some of the books that made up my banyan tree library. So children, Ruskin Bond is saying that he used to read the storybooks of Huckleberry Finn and the story of Dr. Dolittle. All these books he used to sit under the tree and he used to read the storybook. And he is also saying that I made the banyan tree my library. When I did not feel like reading, I could look down through the leaves at the world below. So he is saying that when I am not in a mood to read anything, what I used to do, I used to look down through the leaves all over the world below. And on one particular afternoon, I had a grandstand view of that classic of the Indian wilds, a fight between a mongoose and a cobra. So children, here the author is saying, Ruskin Bond is saying that one particular afternoon from the place where I used to sit and watch the world, from there I saw the Indian fight between the mongoose and cobra. So children, we will continue our second part of this chapter in our next video. Up till then, God bless you all and stay safe.